Season 2 of the Faught TV show has been filming since November, but just in the past few weeks, we've gotten some of the most notable set leaks for the show yet. Because yeah, the Faught TV show is heading directly to Vegas. Filming is currently going on in North Hollywood, where we can see a recreation of the Vegas Strip is currently being built. From some of the leaked set photos, it seems like a decent chunk of Vegas is going to end up being CGI and some green screen work to make it all flow together. It's almost like they have these little stations for filming in front of various signs with big green screens nearby. And one place that will almost certainly get an extended interaction is actually entering the Strip. We can see the iconic Welcome to the Strip entrance being recreated. It has a big green screen behind it, suggesting that you'll probably be able to see through this entrance into the Strip, kind of looking down that main street, but you're also able to see a destroyed Securitron propped up against the entrance. We get a view of this in the post-credit scene to end off the series, a mix of destroyed NCR vertebrates, scratched up and broken Securitrons, and of course a bunch of Deathclaws. And going into season 2, we really have no idea if the Vegas Strip is a ghost town or not. From some of the leaked set photos, we do get some clues. It definitely seems like some kind of new group has moved in here, but the Strip itself does appear to be largely deserted. But you have to imagine, as the major characters come up to this spot, there's going to be some interaction, calling back to the various methods you could use to get into the Strip in-game. But beyond that, as we saw, we have several other iconic signs from Vegas being recreated, including the Welcome to New Vegas sign, which is basically a perfect recreation from what we had in-game. Something you'll notice throughout most of these leaked set photos is the prop team for the Faught TV show continues to be immaculate. Although, one of the curious parts of the set is the signs. Most of these signs don't actually match their in-game variants, so fans are speculating that this might be secondary or really side signs for many of the casinos. So while, for example, the primary sign for the tops will be CGI, perhaps this one won't be. You'll just kind of see it in the background or off to the side. Although, there is one sign properly being erected with the Lucky 38, and this is new. A lot of these set photos of this Vegas Strip being recreated are several weeks old now, but just over the past 72 hours, the Lucky 38 sign has been going up and being posted online, along with an actual physical reconstruction of the Lucky 38 entrance, which, yeah, this also looks pretty perfect. And even this brown brick building that's right next to the sign might be the monorail station from the Strip. And literally just as I was writing the script for this video, the Gamora has begun going up right alongside the Ultra Lux entrance. But yeah, all this definitely makes you wonder what exactly is going on here. We can tell that some sections of the Strip are going to be full on green screen and CG, but most of the major casinos are getting full-fledged entrances, definitely making me think that the main characters will actually go into some of these locations. And with what is likely the most relevant to Season 2's storyline overall, the Lucky 38 getting both a sign and a physical entrance definitely makes it seem like somebody wants to get into this building. As things are left off in Season 1 of the Faught TV show, at least 3 characters are headed to Vegas. Lucy's father Hank is seemingly going to be the one to arrive first, although we don't actually know why he went to Vegas. He sees cold fusion and then just kind of flies off. But then the Ghoul and Lucy are in tow, partially hunting down Hank, but also likely trying to find Cooper Howard's wife and daughter. These 2 characters have mysteriously been missing for the majority of Season 1, but in one of the credit scenes for Season 1, we saw this Topps Cryo Suites billboard, and I just have to imagine that something is going to happen here, whether it be somebody frozen or recently unfrozen from the Topps. I imagine at least some of the characters headed to the Strip are going to beeline it to this location to meet someone. Moldaver dies in Season 1, but we don't actually know how she managed to survive hundreds of years both before and after the bombs drop. Those cryo suites might have some answers around that. But of course, if we're going to the Lucky 38, it also begs the question, could we see some of our favorite characters from the Fallout TV show knocking on the door of the Lucky 38 trying to talk to House? We'll talk about this a bit more later on in this video, but the Fallout TV show creators were asked by Todd Howard to not confirm a canon ending for any of the games. Spoilers, but Robert House doesn't survive every Fallout New Vegas ending. So it creates a situation where if they even just show Robert House as being alive at the current time of the Fallout TV show, it would automatically rule out certain endings for Fallout New Vegas as being non-canon. So barring any kind of crazy retcon like House actually made a backup of himself or something like that, it doesn't actually seem plausible or possible that we'd be seeing House at the current time of the Fallout TV show. But it does seem very likely that we'll be seeing a pre-war Robert House, just like we saw in Season 1. But frankly, we're getting quite a bit ahead of ourselves here. While Hank was seemingly able to get to Vegas relatively quickly, that was thanks to flying. Lucy and the Ghoul have quite a trek ahead of them, because right now they're in LA and they have to get all the way to Las Vegas. It does seem like a major portion of Season 2 will just be getting to Vegas. And these 2 characters are going to be going on a a fairly familiar journey, as their paths should look fairly similar to what we take in the game, including some time in what looks like Freeside. This is an overhead view of that North Hollywood filming area with all the other Vegas signs around, but also a ton of campers. You can see the Welcome to the Strip entrance on the left, as well as the Welcome to Vegas sign right in the middle. And what I think is happening here is two separate filming areas, or perhaps several different filming areas. One will be the protagonists entering into the Vegas Strip, so you'll have that overview shot pointing towards that sign. But then separately, there's likely going to be exploring Freeside, checking out this Vegas sign, the typical Vegas sign that actually exists, seeing some of the casino signs in the backgrounds or the characters acknowledging them, and of course, you have all of these campers. These campers are very notable because it's a completely new thing, and one of the few new things that we could see in this scene. It's been 14 years since the events of Fallout New Vegas, and now that we see the Strip completely destroyed, I wonder if something happened here, leading to a ton of the nearby residents basically living just outside this Strip. It looks like all of these camper vans are going to be outside of the Vegas wall, just based off where we could see them here. So I almost wonder if there's going to be some kind of issue where the two main characters of Lucy and the Ghoul arrive at this location, but then can't actually get into the Vegas Strip for one reason or another. And perhaps that devolves into some kind of other storyline where you're interacting with whoever's living in all of these camper vans. But I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What do you make of these? It's one of the few new things we could see from the Season 2 filming, and I'm not entirely sure what the explanation of the campers are. But things are also headed to Novac. We can see a ton of set photos from Novac, including some shots of the iconic no vacancy sign, and even Dinky the T-Rex being properly recreated for the show. So now seeing this, a ton of fans are immediately curious about a Boone cameo. Could we see one of the most iconic companions from the Fallout franchise make an appearance in the TV show? Or really any of the other major New Vegas characters? The simple answer is yes. Technically, since 14 years have gone by, the showrunners kind of have this opportunity to go either direction here. It's totally plausible that Boone's still in this area, and we could have a really cool cameo with this character. I wouldn't be shocked if they do something like somebody gets sniped from afar and you don't necessarily know who, but you do actually know who. But at the same time, it's 14 years. That's plenty of time for people to just wander off into other sections of the country, or just dead. I mean, it's the wasteland. Things are dangerous. Living 14 more years isn't a given here. As of right now, it's not really clear if we're going to be getting cameos or not, but I wouldn't hold my breath for these. We didn't see many cameos in Season 1, so I can't imagine we're going to see a ton in Season 2. It'll likely more just be environmental or physical references, like how we're seeing this insanely accurate Vegas sign and things like Dinky the T-Rex being remade. And some rare footage of the show actually being filmed, we could also see Lucy and the Ghoul and even Dogmeat adventuring around near an old Skylight drive-in. And I think altogether, this gives us a pretty good idea of what we should expect for at least some of Season 2. As honestly, I could see this being quite similar to Season 1 in a lot of ways. Lucy and the Ghoul have a big walk ahead of them, and I wouldn't be shocked if it takes several episodes to actually get to Vegas. And I kind of am expecting this now because it would pretty closely parallel what they did with Season 1. You get a lot of big questions right as the show kicks off with the first few episodes and what's happening with the vault. But you don't really get the answers to those until the end. The middle of Season 1 of the Fallout TV show is kind of just a bunch of going around, doing random things, and having interesting interactions. So perhaps a lot of Season 2 is just getting to the Vegas Strip, but we don't actually see the Vegas Strip until episode 7 or 8 when things really start to pick up. You have to imagine Goodsprings will get a cameo at some point, particularly when you consider how big Fallout New Vegas Day in the real-life Goodsprings is becoming at this point. But one of the other big considerations going into Season 2 of Fallout is not just the fate of Vegas, but literally Fallout New Vegas. Leading up to the release of the Fallout TV show, we heard from one of the showrunners in an interview that Todd Howard asked for them to do one thing. From the top, Robertson Dwart said they were given only one ask by Todd Howard, to make sure the series storyline didn't contradict any of the major possible endings of the games, which they respected, so they set their story within the same timeline with it taking place after Fallout 4. So Todd Howard didn't want the Fallout TV show to confirm a specific ending for the games, and this is only relevant for Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4. All of the other Fallout games already have a canon ending, but at the same time, so do Fallout 4 and New Vegas, at least kind of. While the showrunners definitely tried to not confirm any canon endings, this big airship that just newly showed up on the West Coast with a ton of Brotherhood of Steel members on board, and mind you, the last time we see the Brotherhood of Steel on the West Coast, they're literally hiding. So while we do kind of get an explanation in Season 1, we also have a ton of questions. Where did the Brotherhood get all of these additional resources? The obvious answer seems like wherever this big airship came from, if it came from some other part of the country, which it seemingly did. And this airship does look very very similar to the Prydwen from Fallout 4. Did it just come all the way from Boston? And oh, would you look at that, on the side of the airship, it literally says the Prydwen. And in fact, the only time this airship is ever referred to as anything other than the Prydwen is in this one exclusive article from Variety. Everywhere in the show, this technically just has a Prydwen label on it. Almost like the Brotherhood of Steel sent an expedition from the East Coast to see what was going on the West Coast, which would also explain their sudden surge in equipment and numbers. And even the name might be a hint here. The Cassawinanan is technically what this airship is known as in the Fallout TV show, despite it saying the Prydwen on it. That's a funny name to choose, because the Cassawinanan was an alternative name used for King Arthur's ship, whose typical name was the Prydwen, which would imply that the Brotherhood of Steel at least survived the ending of Fallout 4. That only happens in either the Brotherhood or Minutemen endings of the game, which of course conflicts with that request from Todd Howard to not contradict any potential endings. And honestly, I just bet internally that the Fallout TV show consider the Brotherhood ending canon, but they can't really say that. So instead, we get the cheeky naming of the Cassawinanan, which is really just the Prydwen. And this very likely will be explored further in Season 2. I can't imagine this giant airship is just going to disappear now. And I think the Brotherhood of Steel have a lot more story to tell, particularly on the extreme side of this faction. We know that Maximus is starting to have some issues with how they're conducting themselves. But even further, we have to see where things go with Thaddeus's plotline. He is seemingly turning into a mutant, as we see at the end of Season 1, and as a member of the Brotherhood of Steel, let's just say that the Brotherhood don't love mutants. I have to imagine that whole thing's going to go somewhere. But of course, where this request from Todd Howard is going to be even more relevant for Season 2 of the Fallout TV show is when it comes to the canon ending of Fallout New Vegas. They have a really nice buffer here. Fallout New Vegas is set 15 years prior to the events of the show, and if anything, Season 2 will be even later than that, at least somewhat. But this really does feel like an immense ask from Todd Howard. The Fallout TV show is going to Vegas, but he doesn't want the show to reveal which ending of Fallout New Vegas is canon? That seems hard, and in fact, Todd Howard talked about this very challenge very recently.
And if anything, the show is leaning into, right, the events there.
Just a bit by that final shot of the show. Yeah, just a bit is leaning in.
Yeah. And obviously Season 2 is going to be featuring some of New Vegas. And we're careful about, maintaining the key events of that game and the great content in it. It is obviously difficult to deal with when you're going back to an area where a game had multiple endings.
Yep.
We have some answers there, but it's hard. It is, I'll just admit, everybody realizes it's hard to sort of canonize or say this is exactly how that game ended. And so whenever we can, I like to avoid it. Like, don't refute anything that happened. Be careful when you're specific about what happened. Just like, we want that game and what the players did to be their reality and true.
And yeah, honestly, not the most ideal response in my opinion, as Todd Howard's approach is really to just avoid talking about things that would confirm a specific ending, which is likely how we got this Shady Sands arrow. I imagine this is an arrow and not a year due to trying to keep things vague. And in my opinion, when you're coming this up close to the lore, like, yeah, we are literally going directly into the Vegas Strip, and it's only been 15 years, that's really not that long. This vague approach is the wrong approach, in my opinion. Fans are going to deduce which ending makes the most sense canonically, based off what's shown in Season 2 of the show, and I feel like just owning one ending or another would have been better, rather than trying to take this vague, let's not answer any questions approach. Because in all likelihood, the house ending will be the one that makes the most sense here, but it probably won't be confirmed by Season 2. We can see a ton of destroyed Securitrons in this post-credit scene, and overall, the destroyed state of the NCR in Vegas would make sense with the house ending. They really can't show House alive in Season 2, at least in a post-apocalyptic time, because that of course would automatically confirm one ending or another. So instead, I think it's this annoying situation where the writers just seem kind of cornered into Vegas being a largely destroyed area, as we kind of saw it, but we won't know exactly what happened here or what happened to all of the major factions, so instead we're just going to get a bunch of vague flybys and loose explanations on what actually happened. And as a simple example of this keep it vague ideology in practice, All throughout the show, we saw the NCR is pretty run down, far from their New Vegas glory, but in an interview after release, Todd Howard said, and look, if you look at the background, the NCR is a wide-ranging sort of organization and goes across not just California, but other places. So the show focuses on this period of time and this group here, and that's what we could say right now. But I don't think you've heard the last of the NCR. So it's all kind of just whatever they want to happen. This is completely new lore, and with 15 years having gone by, a lot of things are potentially possible. And like this example with the NCR, we see them on screen in one way, but you could always just explain it away by saying, well, oh yeah, there's a bunch of other people somewhere else that are actually better equipped and have better numbers. I think just inherently making a TV show about Fallout when you're going to the West Coast, when you're going to the Vegas Strip specifically, is going to be difficult. But to me, when you go about it in this way, trying not to confirm anything one way or another from the game's endings, it just makes the entire task significantly more complicated and difficult, to the point where most of the Fallout creators I've talked to about this do think that Season 2 is going to have even more in the way of controversy, plot holes, and issues around that stuff. And just put simply, I think talking about Season 2 of the Fallout TV show after release online is going to be annoying. I think what we saw from Season 1 was just a preview of a much larger issue we'll see even further with Season 2. I'm still incredibly excited, don't get me wrong, it's just if I'm pragmatically predicting what I think will happen, yeah, there's going to be controversy. Although, one of the other big considerations that I think in a roundabout way is a light confirmation is with Fallout 5. Right before the release of Season 1, one of the big quotes that got picked up with the Fallout TV show was how it was kind of just like making Fallout 5. And in some follow-ups we heard how I think we made Fallout 6. We know all about Fallout 5, we're not telling anyone. And Todd Howard even said, well, there were some things where I said, don't do this because we're going to do that in Fallout 5. And I think what this could all be about is San Francisco. Just a few short hours north of Vault 33 is what I am predicting is the location for the next Fallout game. I covered this more extensively in a video last year, but Bethesda does this thing where they like to tease the location of the next Fallout game in the previous one. And wouldn't you know it, Fallout 4 has numerous references to San Francisco. Kellogg, the primary antagonist for the first act of Fallout 4, is literally from San Francisco, and via the memory den, we could see the Golden Gate Bridge in Fallout 4, probably San Francisco's most iconic landmark. Kellogg cigars are San Francisco sunlights. The Hobologists come to Nuka World from San Francisco. The only other time this faction appears in a Fallout game is in San Fran in Fallout 2, and even the only other major San Francisco faction with the She were technically added into Fallout 4 with some Creation Club skins. Even at the time, I thought this was strange. We're not often seeing factions from the first Fallout games getting skin additions in some of the latter ones. And to me, what is the most damning piece of evidence of a San Francisco Fallout is
they could place this game anywhere. In fact, at one stage they had asked Obsidian to remove a line in New Vegas about San Francisco being totally wiped off the map. They wanted the Bay Area to at least be an option for future games.
So yeah, Bethesda plans these games pretty far out, and this does confirm that San Francisco has been on their radar since at least 2010. I personally fully suspect that Fallout 5 is headed to San Francisco, and that is very relevant when you're looking at the events of the Fallout TV show just due to its proximity. I wouldn't be shocked if part of the reason why Bethesda Game Studios didn't want the TV show to confirm a certain ending was due to it not having to force their hand with Fallout 5. The NCR could end up being a major player in San Francisco. And honestly, if the next season of the TV show might even start setting up whatever is planned for Fallout 5. The game may still be years away, but at this point, if the Elder Scrolls 6 truly is a 2026 game, you have to imagine Bethesda's at least starting to look and plan what's going to happen with Fallout 5, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's going to become increasingly relevant to what's being filmed and shown with the Fallout TV show. And if you're excited for Season 2 of this show, Walton Goggins thinks you should be. We're in the middle of filming it right now. We've been at it since November, and I can tell you that I thought Season 1 was extraordinary. Personally, I am very pleased with it. This blows it out of the water. What these writers have done and the artisans that have come together to tell this story, it's really going to be something. I can't wait for people to see it. We're working really hard to make that happen. So of course, actor promotes project he's acting in, not the craziest thing, but saying it's going to blow Season 1 out of the water does feel somewhat notable. Season 1 was good, and it felt like they hit lightning in a bottle with what they created there. If they could even get close to recreating that same magic with Season 2, I think a lot of people are going to be very happy.